Hey everyone, I'm Purge, and it's that time again for another anime update video. Before I get into what I've completed, what I've been watching, all that good stuff, I thought I'd go over something very briefly. That's an analyst feature that I probably didn't go over. At least I didn't do it in great detail when I did the first video going over analyst features. So I'll go over that a bit now. Simply put, it's adding notes to entries. So as you can see here, got the poster of Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and you got a speech bubble here, and this is basically a note. And I just put recommended to me short one season standalone shows number 5. Now, just so I can keep track of the recommendations I've watched. Now, you can edit this by clicking on the three dot menu, and you could just put it down here, like so. Put in like any notes you want to, and then click save. I think there's a 6,000 character limit on notes, but there you go. You could add notes to it. Add notes to any entry. Some people even actually put full reviews in their notes. But yeah, you can put anything you want. That's a pretty good feature. I like it, and at the moment I'm using it to keep track of recommendations I've been watching. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, first things first. Let's go over what I've actually completed. Let's go completed date. Now, before this, I was going to last updated, but because I added notes to things, the last updated now list is completely wrong. So if we go back here, it's wrong because I added notes here. So that's right. We're not going to use that anymore. We're going to go to completed date. So the first thing I watched this week was I actually watched and finished. I started and finished it. Panty Stocking with Garter Belt. Now this was, as you can see here, it was a recommendation. It's about two angels that get kicked out of heaven and they go to Earth and are tasked with killing ghosts, defeating ghosts, in order to get this currency, these coins called heavens, get back into heaven. It's the look of it is very odd for an anime. The look of the actual animation is more akin to an American cartoon than it is anime. It's like something you'd watch on Cartoon Network. It's it's kind of like got this random, basically almost like episodic story to it. The the um the it's slightly etchy. The humor is very vulgar, so if you don't like that, it's probably not for you. But I didn't mind it. It is actually it's pretty good. It's good. It's fun, and I did enjoy it. But the one thing I will say that really stands out with this anime now, when I was going to watch it, it was suggested to me that I watch it with the English dub, and I did. And I have to say, I'm glad I did because it has one of the best English dubs I've ever seen, or in fact heard. So if you watch Panty and Stocking, make sure to watch it with the English dub because it's very good. They did a really good job with it. Then I watched. It's called Panty and Stocking and Sanitary Box. It's a 8 minute long special, and I gotta be honest, it was kind of mediocre. It's essentially a collection of extremely short, completely random little stories that last about like a minute, 2 minutes long. It's kind of mediocre. It was just completely random. I didn't really get much out of it, but again, the actual TV show was pretty good. Then I watched Boyne Lecture. Now I'm not going to go into this too much because let's face it, it is a how should I put this a culture anime. Um, it managed to scrape past. All I will say is it managed to scrape past mediocre for me and go into the realm of it's fine, I guess. I gave it like a sort of 6 out of 10. Now, interestingly enough, the sequel to this called Boyne Resort, Resort Boyne, is actually um, a pretty well known and well liked culture anime. and it's apparently way better than this one. So it was mentioned, if anybody watches it, listens to it, it was mentioned on the Trash Taste podcast at one time, I believe. So yeah, the sequel to this is meant to be pretty good. So I'll watch that one day. Next up, I watched, this was basically on a whim. I watched, it's a 4-episode ONA of Resident Evil, based on Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Um, it stars, obviously, everybody knows Leon Scott Kennedy from Resident Evil 4, like Resident Evil 2, and Claire Redfield, obviously, from Resident Evil 2 as well. It's the story, and again, I'm hesitating because the story's a little bit disjointed, but essentially, Leon is tasked with researching, going to this kind of bio research facility and stealing information, but it's not, it doesn't really go in that direction, and the story's kind of disjointed and odd. And for a Resident Evil story, it's kind of uneventful as well. You don't really get that many zombies in it. You don't really get that many bioweapons in it. You don't really get that much like gunplay in it or fights with zombies, which is kind of weird for a Resident Evil. Which is why I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's fine, but I wouldn't watch it again. I probably wouldn't even recommend it. Even if you are a fan of Resident Evil, I wouldn't recommend it. The only thing it had going for it is the animation was pretty good. Um, you know, and the overall premise of the story could have been interesting, but it was not executed well. It just wasn't. So that was Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. And then I started and finished Gushing Over Magical Girls. Now, this is actually a pretty famous, infamous anime. The premise, it's a magical girl anime, but it's kind of like a interesting, to say the least, take on the genre. Essentially, it follows the main character, Utena. Her name is. She's a big fan of magical girls, a big fan. And there's 3 magical girls that protect her city, her town, by fighting the forces of evil. And she yearns to be one herself. And then one day, this like thing, like this mascot-looking, kind of cuddly toy-looking animal thing, um, talks to her, and she thinks she's going to get turned into like the thing is going to turn her into a magical girl, but she actually gets turned into a villain that is supposed to fight magical girls, and it kind of goes from there. Now, fair warning, it is very ecchi. Gotta be honest, but it's done in like a sort of kind of playful, light-hearted way. I did like it. I have to be honest. I gotta say, I liked this anime way more than I thought I was going to. It is actually very good, even though the story is pretty simple in premise. It's really quite interesting and investable. The characters are endearing and likable, and for an anime with so much edge in it, it does manage to pull off some really quite cute and wholesome moments as well. And there's some actually pretty good character development here too. So I actually really liked Gushing on Magical Girls. If you're okay with the ecchi, I would definitely recommend watching it. Very good. So that finishes off the what I've actually completed, finished. So now we'll go to what I've actually been watching. So what I'm actually watching at the moment, because obviously I watched and finished all of these. So I watched one episode since the last video. I watched one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh and one episode of Undead Unluck. I've kind of stalled on both of these this week because I've just been, as you can see here, I've just been watching other things. So I've kind of stalled on these, but obviously I still think Yu-Gi-Oh is good. It is good, and I obviously do still think that Undead Unluck is really really good actually. So I'll um I'll start back with watching them soon enough. So that's it for watching. That was actually pretty short. Next up, we got Up Next editions. So firstly, I I'll say that I did have a movie here. It was called the Island of Giant Insects movie. Now I haven't watched it or anything. I I've simply removed it from the Up Next list because I've decided to actually watch it with someone, and I thought that'd be just a bit of fun to watch it with someone because it's meant to be like quite a bad film, but I thought it'd be a bit of a laugh to watch it with someone. So what I've done is removed it from Up Next because there's no point in it being on here because I'm gonna watch it regardless of whether I pick it or not because obviously I'm just gonna watch it with someone, so I'm gonna watch it anyway. So it didn't really need to be in the Up Next list, so I got rid of it. So anyway, Up Next edition is obviously Beyblade Metal Fusion. I haven't started yet. It's been there for a couple of weeks now. But the editions are Manu Scroll, which is apparently from the same director as Quasar of Stigmata. Now, that's another pretty infamous anime that's actually very, very ecchi. And apparently, Manu Scroll is also very ecchi. And I again, I would actually go through a bit of the premise, but I don't know how much I could say. But essentially, in this world, uh, in this world, um, how big a woman's, shall we say, chest is all important, completely important. It dictates her place, completely dictates her place in society, her chest size, and and the main character has apparently a power to take other women's chest size and make it her own, and that's all. That's all I'll say about that one. Apparently, it's pretty fun, so I'll watch this pretty soon. Hence why I put it on Up Next. The other anime, the other edition, is the Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero. Now, um, this was picked from my recommended list. I just randomly picked the next one because after I watched Panty and Stocking, I kind of just randomly picked the next recommendation right away and put it up next in my up next list. And it was Aesthetic of a Rogue Hero. Now I don't know much about this. It's it's an etching. Um, what I really know about it is let's have a look. Actually, let's have a look. Aesthetic of a Rogue Hero. Hero defeats bad guy, good triumphs over evil, the end, or at least that's how it usually goes. But what happens after the hero goes home? Our hero, Akatsuki, is about to find out that sometimes the greatest adventure starts once happily ever after ends. Okay, interesting. Doesn't really give you a lot of information, but it is my next recommendation. So I'll be watching that pretty soon. Um, and that is basically next editions. And I think without I can't think of anything else to excuse me, can't think of anything else to go over at this point. So yeah, we've done adding notes, completed, yeah, watching Up Next. We're all good for this week. Lovely jubbly. So, I hope you liked the video. And if you did, please subscribe, comment, like it. It all helps out. It's all good. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.